People who watch anime. What is an anime you'd recommend to someone who is just starting to get into it? Depends entirely on the person. What genres do you like? What's your commitment level? Movie versus series? Exactly this. Anime doesn't exist in some completely separate realm of storytelling, it's just another medium for it. What you'd like depends on what you look for in a story. Seriously though, if I had posted this question 14 years ago, when I first got into anime, these recommendations would have failed to get me into it at all. I would have gotten the impression that anime is all dark sci-fi action series. You know what got me into anime? Azumanga Daioh. You know what is absolutely not going to show up in these comments? Pretty much any pure slice of life anime. Anime is so vast that just saying pick an anime to get someone into anime is like saying pick a pizza topping to get someone into pizza, or pick a flavored water flavor to get someone into that flavored water thing. Going in blind would probably cause more harm than good from giving the person the wrong idea about the subject. The original poster recommended Your Name, which is actually an extremely good movie for people like me. I also really like Summer Wars. I would probably call it my favorite movie. People will call it the animation genre and it's dumb. Doesn't only apply to anime either. Know a lot of people who refuse to watch Western cartoons as well simply because of the medium. Often with the argument that it's just for kids. Personally, I'm not a fan of the traditional anime art style, but there are still plenty of anime I watch simply because I enjoy the story, and I'm always open to recommendations. A lot of people are mentioning older anime, but by today's standards they are a bit dated. Masterfully made, but might go over some people's heads. There are some on Netflix that I'd suggest, since it's the most accessible. Food Wars, personal favorite, has a ton of food and cooking. So it can be relatable to a lot of people. Kind of sexualized in the first season, but they tone it down later on. Baki, think Street Fighter, but in a TV show. The Netflix series goes off the back of the original, but even if you don't, they go through the backstory. Gory and violent, so don't watch if not into that kind of stuff. Can be extreme. Full Metal Alchemist, one of the classics. Oda's kind of journey, fantasy genre. Can get dark at times, or specifically one very dark episode. But very satisfying watch. Can definitely make you cry if you allow it. Also, most people would suggest Brotherhood over the regular one. I enjoyed Food Wars, but I am not sure it's a good starting point with how sexualized it is. In my experience, a lot of people who don't know much about anime think it's basically all hentai or DBZ, so Food Wars might just confirm their suspicions. Opening scene involves tentacles. Probably not a good way to intro anime to people, but it is a very enjoyable anime. Plus, I also felt like it got worse later on. At first it was a lot, but it went hand in hand with them explaining why they thought the food was good. Then the explanations started getting shorter, with the foodgasms being more about the gasm than the food. I feel the animations got lazier and slower with the newer seasons. I tried to watch Food Wars and found it completely off-putting. Couldn't make it through more than one episode. I'd never recommend it to someone who doesn't know anime. They'll definitely think you're a pervert for recommending it. Laughing out loud. I just watched the trailer and at the end I wasn't so sure it was about food anymore. I really want to like Food Wars. I wanted Food Network but anime so much. But I'm really struggling to get through episodes because it's so uncomfortably sexualized. I don't want my roommates to hear. There was a series that aired years ago, fan-subbed and never released outside of Japan, called Yakutate. Japan, about a young prodigious baker that takes part in global competitions that result in sillier and sillier reactions. It came out right around the time The Iron Chef aired and took a lot of inspiration from it. I think at one point even had the announcer guest star in an episode. If you can find it, it sounds exactly like what you're looking for. FMA is great. I haven't watched the anime, but I've read the manga and it was a really entertaining and moving read. By far one of the best things I've ever read. Edo, Ward? Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. It's a terrible day for rain. But it's not raining, sir. You go straight to hell. Let's play. If you ever do watch it, you have to watch FMA Brotherhood. It's way better and closer to the manga. I would never recommend Food Wars to a new watcher. It reinforces the negative stereotypes of what people think anime is. Also, in later seasons, the one guy makes everyone else's clothes explode as well, so I don't see how it gets less sexual. Laughing out loud. I like that you mentioned that one very dark episode from FMA, and everyone who has seen the series instantly knows exactly which one you're talking about. It's honestly sort of weird that everyone focuses in on that episode because overall way worse things happen to way more people. That one has more visceral horror to it, but is pretty tame compared to the big picture plot. Do you mean the episode of Brotherhood with the dog/daughter/chimera thing? The original anime actually spends more time on that plot than Brotherhood does, if I recall correctly. The earlier episodes of FMA generally spend more time on the events therein than Brotherhood does overall, since I recall there being 2 or 3 seasons worth of episodes in the original that are covered in only one season of Brotherhood, which is why a lot of people recommend watching FMA up to a certain point before switching over to Brotherhood. I think this is right. I remember watching Brotherhood after I finished FMA and it got to that point and I was like, I remember this taking longer. Also in the original. I love Food Wars myself, but that first episode basically has tentacle porn. I was so shocked. Surprised I even watched past it. Haha. Only seen first 2 seasons and can't wait to watch more. Right? Slightly sexualized? It's overtly sexual. I'm not really an anime person, but I really liked the original Ghost in the Shell. The Laughing Man story arc v relevant these days. I once made the connection between the Laughing Man copycats and people licking ice cream in stores for likes. The standalone complex can be found all around social media platforms. It's crazy. Still trying to get into anime, but I watched Ghost in the Shell a couple years ago and it's definitely one of my all-time favorites. Epic masterpiece in my opinion. Same. Haven't really gotten into anime, but the first Ghost in the Shell and Satoshi Kon's movies are great. Seconded on this. Was introduced to it through the dubbed movie. It has movie pacing, and some insanely detailed artistry in the environments. Edit, also a really great score. Pretty much any Miyazaki movie. That said, Cowboy Bebop was my introduction to it and it got me hooked. Agreed, Cowboy Bebop was my first time. My wife fell in love with anime after Full Metal Alchemist. Love Full Metal Alchemist. But to be frank, I already loved anime, smiley face. Yeah, but if it's your first anime, Brotherhood tends to be a better introduction. Yes. Brotherhood is the better of the two. This or Samurai Champloo. Made by the same guy, and while Bebop is better imho, Champloo is more lighthearted. The partly serious tone of Cowboy Bebop is what made it so appealing. Totally agree. If it wasn't present already I would have said Bebop, but I just wanted to throw Champloo out there too because original poster might enjoy something lighter. Came here to say Samurai Champloo. Miyazaki is an awesome intro, but for a series, Samurai Champloo is short, self-contained, and has engaging characters and good animation with action sequences. Samurai Champloo. The music from Nujabes helps make that show even more of a beautiful standout. All the songs on there are a bop. R.I.P. Nujabes. Agreed, Miyazaki is all good. Also Full Metal Alchemist, Trigun, Samurai Champloo, Ghost in the Shell got me into it. Then Naruto. I think I came to this thread like a lot of other people to post this exact answer. This is the correct, default answer. Miyazaki and Bebop are the gateway drugs. They are universally enjoyable. Maybe throw in some Samurai Champloo. After that you've got about a million weird anime subgenre to explore. Pick your direction. I also suggest Baccano, Keijo, and pretty much any anime that ends in an exclamation point, but now you're in the deep end. Watch the movie Howl's Moving Castle, it's brilliant. Recommend pretty much anything from Ghibli, recently watched From Up on Poppy Hill and really enjoyed it. Agreed. Princess Mononoke was the first I ever watched when I was about 11. I loved it. Mononoke is an amazing story whether you like anime or not. Love it so much. Edit, just remembered it's even in my username. My kids and I really liked Spirited Away. This is my comfort movie. I could watch it any time. Also, it makes me want to take a bath. Grave of the Fireflies would not be a recommendation for some just looking to get into anime though. That movie tops my absolutely fabulous film I will never ever watch again list. My girlfriend refused to watch it because I said it was so sad it would make her cry. When she finally gave in and watched, I started crying immediately. She did not cry the entire movie. Not one drop. Turns out your girlfriend is a sociopath. The first scene in the movie is the saddest one. You just don't realize it until the end. Yup. Seen it once. Never again. Mob Psycho 100. Short but fantastic characters and animation, it has a good balance of heart, comedy, and action. Oi, Mabu? Reigen Shishu. Can't believe I had to scroll this far to see Mob. I read the entire webcomic a few months ago, and it's so effing good. I've yet to read it, but I hope that a third season comes out. By far one of my favorite animes. OMFG, worth it for the intro alone. I only watched it because my boyfriend is all about One Punch Man but I could never really get into it so we checked out Mob as a compromise and holy F did I end up loving that show. Funny, sweet, gorgeous animation, and an occasional bitch slap of pathos. Effing amazing. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's a really good anime. Probably my favorite one. FMA, Brotherhood is hands down one of the best works of media in the last few decades in any genre. What stands out most is how immaculate it is in terms of narrative and presentation. There's no fat on it whatsoever, gluttony aside, every single character and plot device serves a meaningful purpose to the overarching narrative, and nothing feels incomplete or unresolved. Even the things you, dislike, are things you will inevitably acknowledge in hindsight were essential and would have negatively impacted the story had they been removed or watered down. I firmly believe that anyone interested in media production, writing should study Brotherhood religiously because it will teach them everything they need to know about crafting the perfect story. The one thing that stands out to me the most about Brotherhood, which almost every other single work of fiction fails at, is the world is already built. There is never really a point where it feels like there is world building occurring. We've been shown the world and the main plot and it remains consistent throughout the show. There's no later season where they are suddenly like, hey, remember Ishbala, and then you suddenly learn about Ishbala. No, instead, they've been talking about it since like episode 1 even if you didn't know what it meant or how it would connect. There's never a point where it feels like they are pulling the curtain out from in front of you. From episode 1 they establish a world then stick with it. The only reveals are learning more details about events you already know happened. This kind of narrative where there isn't any expositioning is always really impressive to me, because so many media get it wrong, especially fantasy writers who want to establish their world. So many writers have a character say remember Hevendel? And the other goes of course I remember how King Demon was defeated there by the Holy Seven, and how his power was scattered across the land after, how could I forget? And nobody in real life talks like that. On that note I really liked how Wreck-It Ralph did it. They had exposition about what going turbo means, but it was justified in universe by another character legitimately needing the context. Up to that point, going turbo was just established slang which everyone in universe understood and need no further explanation. Anime movie recommendations as well please. Personally I recommend Your Name, it's really good. A Silent Voice is also a great movie that was kind of overshadowed by Your Name when it came out. I second A Silent Voice. I third A Silent Voice. I fourth A Silent Voice. I always recommend Sword of the Stranger, especially if you like samurai-type movies. It has its pitfalls but I love the animation, and the fight choreography is done by the same person who did Cowboy Bebops, and some of the music is just absolutely fantastic. Also it's an action movie without the typical shonen monologues. Other than that any movie by Ghibli is solid and has quite a bit of diversity in themes/settings. Kiki's Delivery Service and Nausicaa Valley of the Wind are two of my favorites. Akira and My Neighbor Totoro. I didn't really understand Akira the first time I watched it. Yes, I mean it's easy to get a telepathic kid who blows up Tokyo, but then I read the manga. It's a staggering read and it gave me a much deeper appreciation of the film, mainly because they had to cram so much content into the time frame. I highly suggest the manga. It's massive but a rich geopolitical thriller that goes so much deeper into what it means when the government takes on the task of weaponizing telepathic children. Holy crap. Porco Rosso and Howl's Moving Castle are great generic starters. Spirited Away does need a bit of understanding of Japanese mythology, and Princess Monosuke is slightly niche. The other Ghibli films aren't bad either. Now if you want to go deep, Akira, End of Evangelion, Ninja Scroll, etc. are ways to go if you want a full dive of what anime can be. I know nothing about Japanese mythology, and I still enjoyed Spirited Away. You don't need to understand Japanese folk to understand the masterpiece that is Spirited Away. It's pure movie magic. I'm just starting to get into anime and I really enjoyed The Promised Neverland. It's a little creepy though, so if you aren't into that then I wouldn't recommend. Already watched it and I loved the first season. I've been watching anime for a while, but I was just curious as to what others would recommend people. If you have access to Netflix, see if Erased is on there. It's a 12-episode murder mystery thriller, and it's a real tight story with perfect pacing and a great cast. I can't give it high enough praise. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.